All right, thank you. All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're so happy to have you all here today. Oh, Todd, could you turn off the waiting room feature? We've got people waiting to come in.
I do have it off.
Okay,
Lucas is waiting,
thanks.
but he's stuck. I can't get Jamie
Okay,
in.
all right. All right. So, good afternoon, and we are so happy to have you here at the Forum for Excellence. My name is Dawn Hughes, and I'm with the Forum for Excellence Planning Committee. I'm going to be your moderator for today's session, and Todd Jorns is joining us for tech support. This breakout session is titled Using Google Sheets to Create Data Dashboards for Teachers and Administrators by Joey Lehrman. We are so happy to have him here with us today. Just as a reminder, all participants in this session are in listen-only mode. Please post your questions or your comments in the chat box, and we will address them at the end of the session. So the chat within Zoom is disabled, so you'll need to use the chat feature within the Whova app or on the desktop if that's where you're joining us from. Any materials that are presented during today's session, they are actually already available within the app, and Joey mentioned earlier that he might have a few updates for those, so maybe check back again a little bit later, but there are some materials there now. Following the conference, we will make this recording available, so that should be up by next week. So, Joey, thank you for taking time to present with us today, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Dawn and Todd for the help today, and welcome to our session on using Google Sheets to create data dashboards. Can you see my screen now? Or maybe Dawn and Todd, can you quickly confirm you can see my screen?
You can see it.
Yes.
Good go.
Great, thank you so much. So to kick it off, I want to start with a question. How's everyone doing today? So in the Whova chat, I've put the link for this poll. You can also just open a new tab if you're on a computer and go directly to that URL, bit.ly Excellence Forum. So I'm going to give everyone a minute to respond to that poll, and I'll simultaneously kind of get started with introductions about who I am, and then return back to that poll to explain why I like kicking off a presentation or any class with staff or students in a similar spirit. So as Don said, my name is Joey Lehrman. I currently have two roles. I'm the Program Effectiveness Coordinator in the Adult Education Program at Delgado Community College. We are a comprehensive WIOA provider based in New Orleans. And I'm also the SkillRise Project Manager. With ISTE's SkillRise initiative, we are a nonprofit that provides free resources to help adult learning organizations leverage technology. You can find me on Twitter and all my social contact info there. So with that, I want to get over to the poll, and my hope is that some people have started to submit, which we have a few people responding now. And as responses populate, we will see this dashboard update live. So two reasons I like to start out with this is first and foremost, 2020 has been an extraordinary year for all of us. And so just creating that space for a human connection, just to check in and say, hey, how are you doing? How is your world? What's on your mind today? I think goes a long way to helping staff and students stay connected and stay positive as we kind of navigate the unique challenges of this year. The second reason I like the poll is it's kind of a quick way to show, hey, you can use a poll to create a live dashboard. And as more people submit this, this dashboard will update live over time, which is kind of a cool feature and a cool trick that you can build into Google Sheets to kind of create these dynamic dashboards. And that's obviously some of what we're going to look at today. So with that, I hope everyone is doing well. Once again, I know this is an extraordinary time for everyone, so I appreciate you taking some time to spend with me today. And hopefully we can have a session that feels useful in some way and helps you get started creating data dashboards for your students and staff. So on our agenda for today, I want to kick it off by talking about the values that I use when writing this presentation, and I think you'll understand why when we get to that slide. After that, I'm going to show 4 specific use cases. Some of them are staff facing, some of them are student facing, And these are all different ways to create a dashboard to help guide different workflows. And then we'll finish with a few free resources that exist online. For those of you that might see something today that looks exciting, I'll share resources for how you can learn more about those tools and tips and figure out how to get started doing them yourself. Okay, so to kick it off, I want to talk about the values guiding today's presentation. So first and most importantly, I very much believe in lifelong learning, and by that I mean the internet is already filled with great explanations. So for example, if you want to learn how to sum rows in Google Sheets, you can Google and find literally thousands of websites that will teach you how to do that. So in today's presentation, we're not going to really look at how to build these dashboards as much as see what's possible with dashboards. From there, my hope is that will inspire some ideas for you where you can then get started building some of these yourself. So as we work through the workshop, you might see that it's moving a bit fast. So luckily this is going to be recorded. And once again, I'm not going to spend as much time showing how to do it as much as just showing what is possible, because I think once those ideas get churning, then we can spend time over the next few days and weeks really learning how to build those skills. Because with any software, there's any number of skills we can build over a lifetime. So it's kind of a lifelong pursuit. Secondly, I very much believe we are all teachers and we are all students, especially in the 21st century. None of us really know what's going on. So we're here to kind of figure it out together. The key theme there is let's stay in touch. Find me on Twitter, email me after today's presentation. I would love to talk more to anyone and explore what I've learned in Google Sheets and how to get started doing some of this locally. So please keep in touch after today. Thirdly, remember that done is better than perfect. Like I was saying, with a spreadsheet, there are so many tools and apps and add-ons and features that we can explore. But I think it's more important to just start anywhere and then be ready to make mistakes and figure it out as you go. So that kind of segues nicely into the last item, is that as you build these dashboards, I think it can be helpful to remember that it's never about the technology. It's how technology enables us as teachers to better serve our students and better create a learning environment. So when I get kind of lost in a rabbit hole of, oh, I want to do all these different tips and tricks and build all these cool features and design it to make it look beautiful, I have to kind of dial it back and wait and say, wait, useful is more important than anything, and don't get lost in the tech. It's about how tech can enhance the learning that we're doing with our adult students. So those are our guiding principles for today. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because we'll talk about it later. And my hope is that you'll explore some of these resources over time. And there are lots of free resources online that can help you learn very specifically about Google Sheets or about spreadsheet software or just about different add-ons that can enhance your workflows. To kick it off, I want to start with a digital literacy tip that may be useful today. For those of you that I met March of this year, you may remember these because they're probably my favorite digital literacy tip. Those of you that are on a computer right now, try opening a tab and just typing any of these websites in. So sheets.new or forms.new or slides.new. And I'll give you an example real quick. So I'm going to open a new tab and just type sheets.new. This is a quick and seamless way to create a new Google spreadsheet. Or similarly, forms.new, and it'll create a new Google form, or docs.new for a Google Doc, or slides.new for a Google slide. This is probably my favorite digital literacy tip because it kind of looks like magic. It's not a huge time-saving trick because you can just go to Google Drive and start a new file from there. But I like this route because it saves a little time and it looks fun. It looks like magic. And so hopefully that's a tip that you can take into your workflow, especially those of you that use Google tools a lot. And to kind of continue it, the same is true with their subdomains. So if you go to sheets.google.com or calendar.google.com or mail.google.com, it's a quick way to get to those different Google apps. The reason I start all my presentations with these tips is, one, we're kind of figuring out technology together. So sharing our productivity tips for each other is a helpful way to build community, but also help us learn and build new skills. And two, these things actually improve our workflows and help us be a little more productive so we can then focus our time on supporting our students. So that is the digital literacy tip for today. So a quick background about why I'm here. So we started a fully online adult learning program in Louisiana in 2014. So we've been doing distance learning with adult ed students and CTE students for over 6 years now. And we've learned a lot along the way. But one of the first lessons I found was that we published a very small link on our website. And from that, over 500 students enrolled or applied for our first pilot program. And so what I took from that is that our students are online, they have mobile devices, they largely spend time using technology. One study suggested that 95% of adult learners have a mobile device. And so I learned from this that technology can be transformative in creating access for our adult learners, and through that, more impactful learning opportunities. So my background is specifically in adult education and technology integration. So that's what I'll look forward to hopefully sharing with all of you today. So with that, let's get started. In case you missed it up here, you can actually access all of the presentation resources. Oops, sorry, my mouse is messing up a little bit today. At this URL that you can see on screen. So bit.ly forum sheets, and I will put that into the chat right now, bit.ly. It is case sensitive. And this is something that you could just save for later too, as a way to access all of the resources from today's presentation. So with that, we are going to look at 4 use cases today for how to get started with Google Sheets. So the first example I'm going to show you is directly in Google Sheets. I see a lot of you jumping into this Google Doc now, which is great. This is where all of today's resources exist, all of the dashboards we're going to look at. So if you want to see samples of how these work, you can check them out here, and all of those free resources for how to continue the learning after today. So everything exists in this Google Doc, including the dashboards, which you're welcome to check out with me. So feel free to jump into the slides presentation or these actual dashboards that we're going to look at together. So I'm going to pop over to this dashboard, and I can see in the top right that a lot of you are joining here today, which is great. So you can kind of follow along on your own screen. So the first tip I'm going to share is a workflow dashboard. What I mean by workflow is helping staff or even students figure out how to spend their time. With the rapid response to distance learning because of the health pandemic, we're all working remotely. And so helping people stay on task and figure out how to spend their time can be a challenge. Additionally, we're trying to help our students build a lot of different competencies. There are digital literacy skills, there are academic content skills, there are soft skills. So in our opinion at Delgado, orientation is best done over time. We can't overwhelm students on day one saying, here's how to use Zoom, here's how to navigate different tabs, here's how to build math skills. We will experience cognitive overload. And so what we've done at Delgado is what you can see on screen here, and I'm going to kind of walk you through this dashboard. So to zoom in a bit, in case some of you are not looking at the dashboard live yourself, the column headers just show which week we want our coaches to work on this. So all of our students are paired with a coach. And so for example, in week 1, we want to make sure that students are contacted, that they know how to log into Classroom, that they know how to open an assignment in Classroom and turn in an assignment, some of these core competencies for week 1. Our coaches work with a lot of students. There may be 10 students or 20 students, or some of our coaches have 100 students. So we provide them this Google Sheets dashboard to help them guide their planning as they reach out to each student. So for example, with student 1, I have reviewed their TABE and demographic information. I'm in progress with making contact with them. With student 2, I've completed all of these tasks. And obviously this would just be actual student names at the top, but for the sake of an example here, they're just student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4. So the 2 things we really like about this is 1, it helps staff figure out how to spend their time with students in a way that's aligned with your programmatic goals, whether those are orientation goals or academic content goals. And by kind of adding these filters, I can quickly filter and say, hey, show me all of the digital goals. And it'll quickly filter down to those digital goals. Or I just want to see the soft skills by week. And then I can see those soft skills. So this is our retention strategy because we as a staff have identified these are the core competencies we need our students to build early on. And then we benchmark it week by week. Now to look at some of these Google tools that we're using, a quick tour of each of them. So you can create data validation. So it's very easy for a staff member to update where they're at in the progress. And then you can use conditional formatting, which you see on the right, to create that visual cue. This is useful for the coach and the administrator, because the coach can see, all right, with student one, I'm a little behind. I need to catch up and make sure I reach out. And these are the skills that we're going to work on when we video chat or when we talk on the phone this week. For an administrator, this helps with accountability and transparency, because I can jump in, maybe I'm managing a staff of 5 coaches. I can jump in and quickly see, okay, hey, it looks like you're doing great with a couple of your students. What are some of the challenges you're experiencing with student 1 and 3? Let's reflect about it together, and then let's figure out a strategy to help better engage those students. So this is a great way to also serve as an early indicator of students that may be at risk to fall offline. Have we completed these competencies? If not, why not? And what can we do to kind of troubleshoot together? So the Google Sheets tools that you want to be looking at here are, it's called conditional formatting, which you can see on the right, and then data validation, which allows me through a list of items to say, all right, I want this to say completed, in progress, or not applicable. That creates that clean drop-down menu so a coach can quickly identify where they're at with each student and what they're working on week by week with that student. So that is our coach workflow dashboard. Let me continue on and look at the admin workflow dashboard. And Don and Todd, if you're keeping an eye on the Q&A and there's anything that looks pressing, feel free to interrupt and let's look at it together. So similarly, we've built these administrative workflows because there are so many different things we need to keep track of, whether it is state reporting or hiring new staff or providing PD or training. So as an administrator, I used to be a classroom teacher, now I'm a full-time administrator. I've listed out those tasks for myself and I share it with my staff for feedback to make sure that what we're working on is aligned with the core needs of how we should be spending time. So I need to make sure I import TAG data, build their coaching list. I want to spot check their comments in classroom. Are they giving productive, growth mindset oriented feedback? So each week, this can guide my workflow as well by seeing, hey, with staff number 1, let's say I'm working with Angel, Shandy, and Esme. These are the staff that I'm supporting, just kind of names I made up. I want to note, like, hey, what have I completed? What might these staff members be waiting on from me? And this creates a kind of dual flow of transparency so everyone knows what everyone is working on. And it's not designed as a punitive measure. It's designed to guide collaborative work so we can do what we're here to do, which is support students. So if I'm falling behind on something, they can see that and they can check in with me and say, hey, Joey, I'm waiting on my coaching list for this new session. When do you think that'll be ready? Is there anything I can help with? So it's designed as a way to help support staff and students in building that growth. So as far as Google Sheets, we're looking at the same features here, which is conditional formatting rules, as you can see on the right, and then data validation, which allows me to list the items and then create that drop-down menu for kind of indicating where I'm at each stage of the process. The last workflow I want to show before we wrap up section 1 is you could very easily do this for students as well. So students, especially adult learners that have limited literacy and limited digital literacy, online learning, on-campus learning, all of it can be overwhelming coming back to school. So we can train our students how to use a dashboard like this so they know that step by step, here's what I should be working on, here's where I can track my progress, here's where I can learn more. So for example, add a profile picture, download the mobile apps, send an email to your coach to say hello, and you can link directly in Google Sheets. So I can say, here's a link to learn more. So a student gets to the stage and they're like, wait, I kind of forgot how to send an email. I can click this link, go to the website, and it's a quick tutorial. And that link could be anything. It could be a YouTube video or whatever you think is the most student-friendly to guide your students through that process. So whether it's working with staff and supporting them or your own administrative workflow if you're an administrator or with students, we can create these simple dashboards that make it transparent and easy to find ways to support each other having positive experiences online. I see in the chat, can I make this larger? I will attempt to do so now. Sometimes Google Sheets gets a little funny when you zoom in, so I'll do my best to zoom in and hopefully that's a little more readable. But feel free to also check out these resources after today as well. Okay, so that is use case number 1. The is the item analysis dashboard. This is probably my favorite and a quick question. I'm getting messages that I'm muted. Can you, Todd, Don, confirm that you can still hear me?
I
Yes,
can
you're
still
good.
hear you. Yeah, we can't unmute them.
Okay, cool. I
Yeah.
said that I had been muted, so I just want to make sure people still hear me.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, cool. So use case number 2 is the item analysis dashboard. So let me give you some context for why we built this one. So we in Louisiana use the HiSET. I actually can't remember. I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember in Illinois. I think you might be a state where they can do the GED or the HiSET, maybe even the task as well. But either way, Louisiana, we use the HiSET. Students can take free practice tests. They exist online. When they finish the practice test, they get a score report that says you are not yet prepared or somewhat prepared or well prepared. When you get to this page, when students have completed the test, we've seen an interesting trend that students would score 8 out of 20. The practice test has 20 questions, and they would think that they're failing, which is understandable because 8 divided by 20 is like 40%. That feels like a failing score, but interestingly, it's actually a passing score on the HiSET. Or it's a well prepared on the HiSET. So we had this real challenge that adult learners already struggle with confidence. They were coming in ready to take the test. They would take the test and do well on it, but the score would make them think that they had failed it. So we built kind of a workflow that allows students to essentially take a HiSET practice test via a Google form, and then they get an email response. So instead of getting a numerical score that says, hey, you failed or you got 8 out of 20, they just get the categorical response. Based on the scoring of your test, you are well prepared. There are so many benefits to this system, and what I'm going to mostly focus on is the Google Spreadsheet. But just on the student confidence and emotional soft skills side, this goes a long way to help students build confidence because we're focusing on helping them reflect through that score based on the category, not based on the numerical score. We'll eventually share the numerical score, but that will come later. So the soft skills, helping students build confidence, goes a long way. But the Google Form and Google Spreadsheet is where it really gets transformative for us as a program. So a Google Form, it can auto-grade the test. So we don't have to do any manual grading ourselves. They submit their answers. Here's an example of that live form. They submit their answers, click through it, so forth. And then when they submit it, they'll get their results responded to the email to them. Then everything aggregates in a Google spreadsheet. So this provides the really deeper data analysis benefits that, first of all, row by row, I can see what every student submitted on every question. That allows me to do some item level analysis, which you can now see here on screen. What is very cool about this is that I can package this up once a session and send this off to my curriculum team and say, hey, it looks like in writing, 81% of students got question 3 right. That's great. We're doing well there. But question 1, only 42%. What's the standard being tested on that question? Then let's go ahead and look at our curriculum and audit it to see where gaps exist, what we might be missing, and how we can better revise our curriculum to support that competency. So we've built this automated practice test once, and it's now immensely scalable. So we can then, over time, very easily get many, many more students to take this, aggregate more data, and use that to continue to revise our curriculum. So quick question for Don or Todd. Can you confirm that right now you can see the Google spreadsheet? It's not the slideshow anymore. You can see like,
Yes.
Spreadsheet.
Okay, cool. All right, great. Had a bit of anxiety there that I've been sharing the wrong screen, so thank you for that. So let's look at the spreadsheet itself. So those of you that are in the spreadsheet, you're going to be now looking for the orange tabs at the bottom, and there's a few tabs I'll show you. So the first tab is where those student responses get aggregated. You can see one by one as they submit, it'll create a new row for them. These are all fake names, no student privacy issues, no FERPA problems here. But this is really nice at a student by student level. So once a student takes a test, I'll ship the spreadsheet off to their coaches so they can go through the responses one by one and help the student troubleshoot areas that they were struggling with. Then we built some formulas in that you can see all the way on the right. This is how the email gets automatically sent, and that's going to be an add-on that's called Autocrat. Google that, and I've got a link for it in our dashboard. It's called Autocrat. You can take any data from a spreadsheet and create custom emails based on data in that spreadsheet. Super easy to use, very useful. And then the third part is that actual item analysis dashboard. So we've essentially got a handful of formulas in here that will measure, has a student gotten the question right, and how many of the total students have got that question right. So to show you that part, there are essentially a handful of formulas that are like count if, count A, and things like that. And that's what you'll want to Google to learn more about. I then hide those rows to kind of keep this pretty and visually accessible. And then it's the same conditional formatting that we looked at before, which is create a green cell if it's like over 75%. And you can adjust that based on whatever you want. You can do darker shades of red and so forth. So every session, as students submit this, the total number will adjust. And every time a student submits this form, all of these calculations will readjust. So this one was transformative for our academics team and our student support team because A, we're automating that practice test experience so students can build confidence through that practice testing process. And then B, we just get this mountain of data that allows us to assess ourselves. How are we doing as teachers? Where are our students struggling? And how can we revise our curriculum to better meet their needs? So use case number 2 is this item dashboard. And as an extension of that, what I want to emphasize here is I know we have adult educators and CTE program instructors here. We use TABE at our program, and I don't want to evolve this session into a knock on TABE, but we've done some TABE analysis, essentially looking at how do students score on the TABE, and then how do they do on the HiSET practice test. And so I just want to show that analysis here that students that get an NRS level 2, for example, sometimes get well prepared on the HiSET. So you can kind of internalize this graph to realize that maybe TABE and HiSET or TABE and GED don't have a perfect correlation. And to be honest, that's not a knock on TABE. It's a challenge for us as a community to build out more data points to understand our students. So as an example, we give that practice test to every student when they enroll in our program. They have to take the TABE. That's an NRS requirement. We have to get them into the state reporting system. So we'll give them a TABE and then email them this practice test and say, hey, try to take all 5 sections in the next month. Your coach will be sending you reminders to do it. So then we can round out a more complete profile of where our students are at. We have TABE data, we have practice test data, and then we have their course enrollment data. So over time, that helps us deepen the picture of where our students are at and how we can support them through the class. So the Google Sheets feature here would be the graph that allowed us to kind of do that analysis, but I also just wanted to emphasize that technology tools like this can really deepen our understanding of students so we can customize the programming, differentiate our instruction, and better support the unique needs of each adult learner. So that is use case number 2. Continuing on, let's look at the retention dashboard. And this is where I'm going to show you a few of my favorite formulas in practice. So this will be partly showing what's possible, but then also showing you a bit about how to do it. So in adult ed, whether CTE, adult ed, we have a lot of data. We have TABE data and practice test data, and we have attendance data and course enrollment data and contact information. And in my experience, our data systems often have these data points living in separate places. So the next tip I'm going to show you is how to bring them together to create another dashboard, but also to kind of guide some program analysis. So for those of you that are in the spreadsheet, you want to look at the retention dashboard, and I'm going to kind of move back and forth between the retention dashboard and the student contact information. So here's a quick example. Here's students that are taking an algebra class, whatever class. Here are their attendance hours by week. So what I'm going to do is evolve this into a more useful dashboard and show you what those formulas look like along the way. So the first thing I would do with a spreadsheet like this, insert a new column. Every formula is going to start with equals, and then I'm just going to sum these. That allows me to see total attendance over the course of the class. I can double click this box and it's going to automatically populate that attendance all the way down. So that creates an opportunity to kind of just save some time and autofill a formula. From here, I would highlight everything and I would create a conditional formatting. If anything here is equal to 0, I want to flag that as red. So now I have a visual indicator of, okay, here's a student that's fallen offline. This is a flag for me as their coach, as their teacher. I need to reach out and see how I can support them engaging with the class again. I can also see in week 3, a few students have started to fall offline. So maybe that's an early indicator to send them an email, a text, something motivational like, hey, we miss you. Hope to see you back on campus or online next week. So just a few quick formulas and conditional formatting to help me visualize this. But if I'm their coach, I also want to be able to reach out to them. And now I'm going to have to go into my database or a state system and find their contact information. Instead, it all lives in a spreadsheet here. I've downloaded this, I've exported it as a CSV into the spreadsheet, and now I can bring these two together. So this is probably my favorite formula in Google Sheets. You'll want to look this one up because it's a bit weird at first, but once you understand the kind of jargon or the architecture of it, it's very easy to use. It's called the VLOOKUP. So essentially what I'm doing is looking for this student's name, and I'm looking for it anywhere in this list. When I find that student's name, let's say I just want to return their email address. I can say return column 8 and finish it, and that automatically brings over their email address. Now, if we go back to the other form, I can see there's also a phone number here. So maybe I want to return that too. Just going to pop that into brackets and say return both of those. And now it will, once I wrap it, return both of those data points. So now I get email and phone number. And once again, if I want, I can drag and drop this down or copy and paste it down, and it'll continue doing that same process for every student on the list. So now I have attendance data and contact information for all of these students. Yes, all of this is made up. And then the 2 more fields that I would add, whether for a coach or myself, I'm going to insert a checkbox, and I'm going to label that contacted, and then notes. So if I'm a coach or I'm an administrator, I build this spreadsheet, I ship it off to the team, and I say, hey, I want you to reach out to the students that haven't attended class at all. Or I want you to reach out to the students that are missing attendance in week 3. So one by one, I can work my way down the list, have this information in a central place, just call them, tried calling, no answer, remember to try again tomorrow. Then I keep working my way down the list, and I can track which ones I've contacted, making notes along the way, and then return to this over time and see if that's impacted retention. So creating a space where you can bring together multiple tables to visualize or work with data or combine different things makes it easier to kind of inform how we spend our time. So instead of having to go to a database and then a website and then our student information system, it's all right here on screen. And then I can use that to guide how I spend my time, which is allowing technology to allow me to focus on getting to know my students. So that's the VLOOKUP. Once again, probably my favorite tool. Those of you that are in the Google Doc right here, you'll see that the VLOOKUP is linked. It is a transformative skill to build. So I encourage you to look at that one. There's some documentation that teaches you how to do it. Again, expect to be confused for the first day, but once you get in the hang of it, it's actually very easy to use and probably the one I use most frequently to pull together different data tables. Okay, moving along, we are going to look at the last tip, which is going to bring together a bit of student surveys and a bit of data visualization. Those of you that have the slideshow, you can look at this later on. This kind of teaches you how that VLOOKUP works. So if you are in the spreadsheet, you're going to look for the blue tab now, which is the Student Surveys tab. So we use a lot of surveys in our program. It's a great way to capture feedback. How did you like this class? Do you feel it helped you reach your goals? What could be better? We use staff surveys. How do you feel leadership is doing right now? Are we providing you proper support? How can we grow as a team? All of that data gets aggregated in a spreadsheet like we looked at with the practice test. So I can see kind of row by row here how to, or like what my staff or what my students are saying. For this one, I'm going to need to zoom out a bit just to show you the next tool. What can be challenging about a Google spreadsheet is that reading horizontally isn't always like, we're used to reading things vertically. So going from cell to cell can be kind of confusing. So this is where I'm going to introduce the transpose function. So equals transpose, and then I'll highlight what I want to transpose. And transpose means it's going to invert it. So now all of the questions that I see horizontally at the top now show up vertically in this spreadsheet. Then from there, one of my favorite tricks is how we can create this into like a mini dashboard that makes it easy to switch between responses. So I will right click for a data validation, and then I'm going to choose a list from a range, and I will choose all of these students. That might have been a bit weird at first, so let me show you what the output is. Now when I click on this result, or this drop-down menu, I can see all of the students that have submitted this form. This will grow over time as more students submit that form. So now I want to see the responses for maybe student 1. So I could do a transpose student 1 and just highlight their comments. Oops, must have misspelled it, and I did. That's pretty common. Hashtag name means that you misspelled the formula. So I'll come back in here, fix that, and now I can read these responses in a vertical way. That alone, I think, makes it a lot easier to kind of visualize what we're looking at. Email address, who was your teacher in the class? Did you enjoy the class? Did it help you build your writing skills? So this allows me to kind of create a vertical view that I think is a little easier to look at as a staff. But it's not dynamic. So if I wanted to look at student 2, I'd have to once again equals transpose, and then highlight these columns again, oops, for student 2, and then copy and paste that down. Instead, I can use a filter. So this one I'm going to show on screen, and then I'll talk through it because it's a bit confusing at first. So I want to filter all of this data, and I want to do it based on when this column is equal to whatever you find in M. So right now it's NA because it's empty, but watch when I select a student. As I select a student, it's going to change and populate the results. So this changed, student 8, this changed, student 5, but it's not vertical. So those of you that might have jumped ahead to guess, we just need to wrap that in a transpose. And now we've created the dynamic dashboard. So keep your eyes down here as I switch between students. Student 3, this data changes. Student 23, this data changes. I have some conditional formatting in here to say if any of these are less than 5, please make that red because it means a student didn't enjoy the class and I need to reach out to them. I want to hear more about what they didn't like and how we can make it better. So that filter feature allows me to create this dynamic dashboard, which is, in my opinion, just kind of a small hack to make this data more readable and dynamic because I can create that conditional formatting. So as a quick review of what that looked like, that was a right click with data validation based on this column, and then the transpose function, which allows me to take vertical data and make it horizontal, or horizontal data and make it vertical. So that is use case number 4. And because this is kind of like a rapid style presentation, I want to show you a few features about how you can continue the learning. And then hopefully we'll have a couple minutes left just for a general Q&A in case anyone wants to ask about any of the specific examples we saw today. So to bring it back to the spreadsheet, first of all, let me emphasize some of these tools for continuous learning. The number one tip I can give you for building Google spreadsheet skills is the Collins School of Data. This is a spreadsheet programmer that has produced a free course. For background, I'm primarily a teacher and then I became an administrator. I do not have a background in software development or spreadsheet programming. I have built all these skills in the last maybe 2 years. And it's based on essentially this course that I took from Ben Collins. So at Advanced Formulas 30-Day Challenge, there are 10-minute challenges you take every day for the 30-day course. You can do it fully self-paced. And it essentially looks at every one of the skills that we looked at today. So I can show you the class view so you can get a feel for what that looks like. And you can see on the left that all of the skills we've looked at today, you look at. So if statements and data validation and the VLOOKUP. So pretty much everything we talked about today, you can learn about just from this course itself. So I'd encourage you to check out that Collins School of Data. There's the Google Certified Educator Level 1 and Level 2 program. There are tons of free resources to help you learn about how to use the full range of Google tools. So if you saw today, for example, that graded Google form looked pretty cool to create a quiz, you can do that quiz on anything. It doesn't have to be a practice test. It can be a math quiz or a reading quiz, and it still will grade it for you, email results. Different uses like that you can learn about through the Google Educator Level program. So click into these and you'll see that there is free training. There's a full course that talks about Gmail and Calendar and Drive and how to use all of them in an effective classroom. You can also get certified. There's a $10 exam in case you want to get Google certified, which is what you see on this screen, Google certified Level 1, Level 2, so forth. SheetsCon is a once a year free online virtual conference all about Google Sheets. If you missed this year's event, this was the first year they held it. It was in March. All of the recordings are still available online. So you can go into the schedule and see that there are tips about pivot tables or using Google Sheets to build a budget and so forth. So all of these webinars are available for free and can be watched online. There's a Google Sheets group on Facebook, which you can check out, which has just people posting questions. So I regularly post questions here, and it's a collaborative community of teachers and students helping each other out build new skills. And then the Applied Digital Skills curriculum, which is free video-based content to help students learn how to use any number of tools. All of it is built with a view towards adult learners. So it's great. You can learn how to write a business plan or do a slideshow or any number of things, write a resume. Great free video-based, project-based lessons on how to do various things on the internet and with a computer. And then lastly, if there's anyone you're looking to follow on social, these are the handles I would look for. So there's a Flip Classroom and Learn Google Spreadsheets handle on YouTube. These are just people that post videos, once a week or once a day about how to do any number of tasks in a Google spreadsheet. And then similarly on Twitter, I follow Alice Keeler and Jake Miller. I follow lots of people on Twitter. All of them they provide free tools and gifts and tutorials on how to navigate each of these tools. So once again, my hope today in this presentation is really just to give you a quick introduction into what is possible with Google Sheets. But now that you have this Google Doc, you can go ahead and now try to learn how to do any of them. So every feature that we looked at today is linked in the spreadsheet. You can learn how to do them. You can see tutorials or videos and so forth. And then also all of those continuous learning resources that I just looked at are linked as well. Oops, sorry, my mouse, as notice, is struggling a bit. And like I said, all of these continuous learning resources are here as well. So you can use this as an opportunity to enroll in a class or check out some of those guides online. So I really mean it when I say, please keep in touch. You can see my website and my Twitter handle here. You can find my email on my website. More than happy to connect anytime. If you saw one thing today and you're like, hey, can we talk for 10 minutes and look at how to do this together? I would love to do that. If you want to talk about a longer session or workshops or anything, I really think that all of us are just kind of lifelong learners at this stage. We're all trying to figure out technology and distance learning and how to create meaningful learning for our students. So that requires us to kind of build a culture of we're all learning together. So please stay in touch, reach out anytime. It's been great to be here. And in looking at the clock, I think we do actually have about 10 minutes. Typically, I try to keep my presentations to about 45 minutes because of cognitive overload. So I hope you're still with me and listening, but those of you that are still here, what questions do you have? Let me pop over to Q&A, and then Todd and Don, feel free to chime in if you've noticed any specific questions that I should look at right now. So in the Q&A, I see Transpose. Let's definitely start there. That's a great one. That is really nice, a really nice feature. So let me just create a new tab so it's a little easier to visualize without all this noise. So I have this data that is horizontal right now. So if I say equals transpose, and then in parentheses, just highlight what I want to transpose, that'll invert it and make it vertical. But keep in mind, it goes both directions. So I can once again say equals transpose and highlight this data, and it'll return it to being horizontal. It goes both directions. Transpose is horizontal to vertical, vertical to horizontal. Those of you that chimed in with that question, was that helpful? Can I look at it a little more closely? Okay, checking the chat now. Great. Yeah. So I see, here's the quote itself. That is the question. I found Google Forms challenging for math questions, equations. Any suggestions? Yes, that is an awesome question. So a couple suggestions. When we give our students the practice test, let me go back in the slide here to that because I want to pull out a URL from it. So the question once again is, it's not really easy to type a math question into a Google form. So how can we do that? Okay. So just to talk specifically about how we do this, and then I'll give you a few tips beyond that. So we don't actually put the questions into Google Forms. This is a free practice test. It's available on the HiSET website, no copyright infringement. This is what we email out to students. It's a PDF. This is where all of the actual questions live. So when we email this to students, or if they do it on campus, we teach them how to split their screen like this. So on the left, there will be their questions. And then on the right is just a Google form that says question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, and so forth. So at this point, they just do the questions here. They have pencil, paper, calculator, all of it locally on their desk. They do the question, and then all they do in the Google form is add their answers here. With that said, if you're looking to build your own quizzes, what I would recommend is open a new Google Doc. Remember, that's docs.new. And there are several add-ons that you can put into a Google spreadsheet that allow you to much more easily type math questions. So for example, it's almost like it's listening to me. It probably is listening to me. That was kind of terrifying. I'm glad you all saw that. So right here, for example, here's an add-on called Math Type. This allows me to add formulas and functions and radicals and so forth into a Google Doc. I would then give the Google Doc or a PDF to the students and then keep the Google form simple. So it's just like, this is like your answer form. It's like you're bubbling in on a Scantron. So to those of you that asked that question, was that helpful? Like, we don't really put the formulas in forms. We do that in a PDF or Google Doc and then teach students to split their screens, which has the added benefit of splitting screens is a transformative digital literacy skill. We're always working in 70 tabs and multiple applications. That's one of the first things we teach our students is how to split their screens so it's easier to kind of like research and work on a Google Doc or slideshow at the same time. Okay, a couple more questions have rolled in, so let me check those out. Yeah, great. So the Autocrat add-on. So anytime you're looking for add-ons, these exist in docs, sheets, slides, forms. They all have add-ons. They're essentially third-party software that adds on to the spreadsheet or the file to give it new functionality. So we can, add math questions to a Google Doc, or like I said before, we can automatically email results of a quiz. So here's an add-on. I go to Autocrat and I launch it. Autocrat is a bit slow, so you should get in the habit of kind of waiting a little bit. And you create a new merge job. It's called a mail merge. Those of you may be familiar with that from Microsoft Outlook. It's very old technology, just kind of built into Google Sheets. And then what's going to pop up on screen, as you can see here, it is a bit slow, is essentially a guide that's going to walk me through step by step. Like, what do you want to email students? So I have to choose a new template from Drive. So this would be like a Google Doc that says HiSET results or whatever it is. So we have these templates, and maybe I just want to automatically send them that form. Then it's going to take me step by step between. And I'm gonna close out Autocrat here because it is slow. You should dedicate some time. The nice thing is once it's built, it's done. So you don't have to kind of keep rebuilding it. But what that guide will teach you how to do is say, what are the columns you want to merge? So I'll tell it, I want to put the student's name in it, and I want to put their categorical results. So it's just essentially a drop-down menu that says, please put their name in it, and then it'll put it in the email. Please put their categorical results in it, and then it'll put it in their email. So as students submit the Google form, the results show up on the spreadsheet. As they show up in the spreadsheet, Autocrat emails them their results based on the data in the spreadsheet. Oh, great question from I see, how did you automatically link the Google form to the data sheet so that every time someone submits a Google form, it updates the data sheet? Great question. That's a built-in feature directly into Google Forms. So if I go into the edit page of it, this is what the backend looks like. So I have my questions here. This is where I can add question 1, question 2. Here's where you'll see the answer key in case this is a quiz. So I can tell the form, hey, what is the correct answer to question 1 and question 2? You'll also notice on the responses tab, if I click over, in the top right is that spreadsheet icon. I can click that and it'll automatically create a spreadsheet, or I can choose a specific response destination. And I can click here, it'll say select existing spreadsheet, and I can tell it I want it to go into a spreadsheet I already exist. So by default, all form responses actually automatically go into a spreadsheet. What I've shown you here is how to kind of create a new spreadsheet or create it or send it to a spreadsheet that already exists. So it's the default behavior to store all of this in a spreadsheet. You just have to click over from the questions to the responses to look at where that is. Click this icon and it'll take you directly to that spreadsheet. Okay, the chat has grown a bit, so I want to make sure I haven't missed anything. Have I, Don or Todd, anything you want to highlight? Or from there, should we slowly wind down?
I think you've hit everything that people have asked.
Okay, great. That's good news. So with that, I'll put my contact information up here again. And I mean it, like the values are key. We are all teachers, we are all learners, we are here to help each other out, and the internet is filled with a global community of people that want to help you build new spreadsheet skills. So please keep in touch. It's been great to connect with all of you today. And as a shameless plug, I have another session with the forum all about our distance learning program in Louisiana. If you want to hear about how we built that and some tips we have for creating an online community, that starts at 2:30. So I'll be getting ready for that shortly. So let me wrap here. Any questions, comments, or thank you all for coming today.
All right, Joey, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and close this out, and feel free to add any of your contact information into the chat if you want to. I know some of it's already there through the app as well. But we want to thank you so much. Your presentation was absolutely wonderful today. Thank you so much for that. And as Joey said, he is presenting. Hang on one second here. He is presenting again at 2:30, and the title of his presentation at 2:30 is Welcoming Students and Teachers Online, Creating Collaborative Online Learning Communities. So if you like what you saw today, we would encourage you to come back at 2:30 and watch his next presentation. Also, we want to thank all of our participants today. You did a fantastic job in engaging with the presentation. Remember that the chat will still be available in the app, so you can always go back there and find any links that you need, plus all of the resources are available in the app as well. The recording will be rendered, and we'll have that available hopefully next week, and we'll be sending out more information about that. Since you have a few extra minutes, we would really encourage you to do the session evaluation. That is really helpful to the conference committee as well as to our presenters. So on the app, all you have to do is find Joey's session and then click on the button that says rate session. It should only take you a couple of minutes to complete that evaluation, and that is, again, super valuable for all of us. Just a reminder to follow us on social media. There are lots of opportunities for giveaways. Our vendors have provided quite a few gift cards, especially through the scavenger hunt, and in the mornings we have some coffee meeting time. So make sure you check that out. It's an opportunity to not only engage with other people, but to earn free gifts, and that's fun. You can see all of the different ways to connect with us on social media through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Those are listed on the slide. And we would also love for you to engage with us through photos. So take a photo of you in your workspace, you and your coworker. That could be a dog or cat. That's totally fine. And submit it to the phone number that you see on the screen. And tomorrow between 8:30 and 12:30, we'll be watching our mosaic wall come together live. So please send us a photo. We would love to have you included in that. And finally, we want to thank our sponsors that are helping put on this conference. We are thankful for their participation in this and making this such a wonderful event. So we've got a little bit of time before our next session start again at 2:30. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and we look forward to engaging with you again in about 20 minutes. Thanks.